How did Bike and Hike get started?
My roots, or really my story, is how I got here, which is kind of the story I tend to tell. So what you guys are doing is a little bit off what I'm kind of used to. Because a lot of people just come in and they go, hey, how did you get into this? Or maybe there are other industry people or customers. And basically it goes like this. I grew up in Albany, so just south of Salem. And it was a mill town back in the 70s when I was growing up. And we weren't very affluent, I guess would be a fair way to say it. And I delivered newspapers on a Stingray license. So I guess that would be the beginning. I eventually amassed this sum of money and I bought a used 10-speed, a Schwinn. It was kind of heavy and I paid $75 for it. It didn't take me very long to figure out that there were much higher quality bikes.
Do you think that the sustainable aspect of bicycles has made them more popular in the Northwest?
Yeah, I think that we're not the biggest, and maybe arguably not the best, but we're special, and I think clearly forward thinking. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I've really seen cycling evolve a lot, in that span of time when I first started. So now it's definitely more mainstream. Back, in the 70s and the 80s, it wasn't all that mainstream.
Do you think people ride bikes or buy bikes for the sustainable aspect?
I guess. Well, the sustainability is just one aspect that, I think clearly people are choosing to move to Portland from other places in the country, and it's pretty easy to understand that they're disenchanted with the whole lifestyle. If you are in a Rust Belt town in Ohio and you just had it finally, and they finally just buttoned up the last possible job opportunity you could hope to have, well, it's pretty easy to buy a one-way ticket to Portland.
What do you think about the new bicycle track that they are building by the Ross Island Bridge?
I've ridden it more than a couple times. I would say it's still a work in progress because it's not completely done. My first impression is it's overbuilt and it's a little confusing because they're trying to integrate pedestrians and cyclists, and that can always be really challenging. I'm a pedestrian sometimes and I'm a cyclist other times, but it seems very confusing. Sometimes the lanes change.
Switch over.
Yeah. But the nice thing too about this town is if it doesn't work right, they just fix it. They just change it, and I like that.
Do you guys have any sustainable business practices specifically?
So we recycle, pretty much everything we can. Recycle aluminum and steel, plastic, glass. If I do this right, I'll have created a sustainable business that continues on beyond my lifetime and beyond my employees' lifetime. So my idea and concept is to find common thinking individuals, get them to work and contribute to our similar goal, and I simply want them to be committed, because I know that I and they will make mistakes, but if they're committed, there's not too much that we can't get past. So
do you encourage your employees to ride bikes to work?
That's pretty
Most
much
do.
the norm. Most of them do.
Sure.
That's cool.
Does Bike and Hike refurbish and or sell used bicycles?
And the answer is we don't really sell used bikes. We service used bikes, but those are clients' bikes. In this town, there are, a lot of stolen bikes, and unfortunately, it's very difficult to discern which one's stolen and which one is not. So, if we were in the used bike business, what we would have to do is we would have to document every aspect of that purchase and the sale of that used product as if we were a pawn shop. So,
do you find that becoming more sustainable makes profits increase, decrease, or stay about the same?
there are ways to be smart when it comes to reducing our impact, and it makes sense financially. There's just certain things that are going to be difficult for a while, let's say, recycling tires. There's really no good place to recycle tires right now because it just, or bike helmets, use bike helmets. But there are people that are putting an effort out to do that. And I think what's happening too is that our industry is starting to really wake up, and the manufacturers certainly have the capability to, tie up that waste stream at the tail end of things. And I think that, we move forward another 10, 20, or 30 years, that it'll just be tied up like cardboard.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody thinks about recycling cardboard. You just take it for granted. Why would you put cardboard in the landfill? It makes zero sense.
So after interviewing Kevin, we realized that it's not exactly the most sustainable business in the area.
But the aspect of riding bikes is what was sustainable, and that's what we want to focus on.
I ride a bike because I'm a white kid in Portland. Sure, I could probably afford a Honda Civic or a Subaru, but this is way cooler, and it's sustainable.